Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another episode dissection of Apple TV Plus's Constellation. This is episode 6, and this is a heavy hitter episode because we are in a completely different universe the majority of this episode. So we're going to kind of do our best to dissect what happens in this one because there's a lot of cross universe action, and I love it. But I'm here with Vanessa yet again. What's going on, Vanessa?
Oh man, this is such a good episode. Like we finally, I don't know if we got any. We didn't. I don't know if we moved forward in the plot, but we definitely got more like answers. We got more backfill things. It was good. I liked it.
Yeah, like all the moments that were kind of like blacked out from her character, like we didn't know what was happening in between all the cracks, and now we
Right.
completely do, down
Hmm.
to her effectively dying, I guess. We don't know.
Hmm.
Is she dead? I don't freaking know. She's
One of
breathing.
them is. That's what I'm
Somebody.
saying. I'm pretty sure. Like my theory, I'm pretty sure we have the answer to that.
So
Like
so that's the interesting thing. Going off of your theory, is she ever gonna really be dead if she's existing in two different spots?
if the other one dies, then yeah. There's like
But
clearly something is anchoring the two together
right,
that transcends life and death.
yep,
That's interesting. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, because even then, who freaking pushed the button to get him off? Anyway, I digress. So the beginning of this episode, we get to understanding that we're going through Paul's perspective of what's happened. And we kind of know, like, oh, okay, everything's kind of playing out as usual. And then all of a sudden, like the rift happens, but instead of Paul losing a limb, we get Joe, and she smashes right into the side of the ISIS. And the weird thing is, like, there's like a hole, and then like the side of her face is just sucked in, and it was really graphic, and it completely catches you off guard. And then they transition you to the titles. But coming right back from that, we kind of know like there's certain things that are said. He was like, "Where'd the cow go? Where's the cow?" And you're like, "What are you talking about?" And so then immediately we start to piece together the pieces. Like, is he maybe in another universe? Like, I don't know, like about you, but I think that that intersection is just so genius from a plot standpoint because we've led all the way up to these questions, and now they're filling the gap with this interesting story. I mean, what was your take on that as far as how they doing the progression of the story?
It was so smart. It's so smart to show us what we've already seen, but not fill in the missing pieces. Like it's like when you're waking up from a night of drinking and you can't remember all the parts of it, and then you start talking to your friends and they're like, "Oh my god, it's because you were doing this and you were doing this." And then you start to remember things based off of what they told you, or like, "Oh my god, I saw pictures or videos." Like that was like 100% my sophomore year in college. For Loco got me like missing blanks of my missing moments of my time. But it's so cool to see the way they did it is so smart, because I swear other shows or other movies have, like, I feel like Tenet did something similar, tried to,
Mm-hmm.
with this sort of storytelling, and it just did not land. It was just so confusing.
Yeah.
This is not confusing. It's actually they're very methodical
Mm-hmm.
about they're ans- how they're filling in the gaps, because I was like, light bulb moment, light bulb moment, light bulb moment, because I was like, oh, that's what happened here. This is what happened here. And my theory of like, because I remember talking about it last episode, what if the e- even dead the dead like dead even dead the like Russian lady is swapping with her dead doppelganger or dead other self. And I
Right.
think that, and I feel like this episode has strengthened that. Like even death cannot sever whatever freaky multiversal timeline reality hopping connection some of these people have. It's not even just limited to the astronauts, because like Alice is experiencing it too, and we have no idea why. So even though we're filling in gaps, and I'm like, oh, okay, that explains this, or that explains this. I haven't even more questions on, like, why is Alice experiencing this? So I thought, but the way that they're connecting the dots is actually really like so elegantly done, especially like the hands holding, the breathing, the connection of the fabric lifting off the face. There's just so many different ways. There's so many little things that they did that like it was just smart. It was smart to like add more puzzle pieces to the puzzle, even though we don't have the whole picture yet. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And there's an anime that I really love, and they do storytelling the same way. It's Attack on Titan. Like you get the first season,
Mm-hmm.
it gives like small little gaps in between. Then as you're going through, you're like they're filling all these gaps in, and it's paying off perfectly. Because I think with Paul in this, like when, like you said, when he saw Joe's body like breathing, we're all like, is she breathing? Is it happening? But if you go and call back to when she was on the ship, there were times where she was heavily breathing because she was exhausted and she was blacking out. So as she's blacking out into the other body. And that's freaking creepy because on one set, it looks like, oh man, I'm getting haunted by a person that living right here. For him, he has no idea what's going on. But we, as the audience, are knowing what's happening, or at least we're putting the pieces together. I still kind of question certain things because even his decision to go and leave the body out there, it was a decision he made, and later on, he speaks up about it. He's like, "I was scared.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what the heck this was. Like, I made up some excuse, like, yeah, blood is gonna enter the capsule and something's gonna happen. Like, no, that was BS. Like, I don't want to be around this dead body because I don't know what's happening." And he couldn't explain
Mm-hmm.
it. Down to him getting frustrated trying to push the button, just like Joe did. The question I have is, who freaking pushed the button to get him out? Because if she's dead, right? Like, did Joe go back in just long enough to push the button to get him out, or what happened? I really, that's an unanswered question, which I love. I mean, I love that in certain aspects of True Detective. So the unanswered questions are the things that's most interesting, while still engaging us with progressional questions.
Mm-hmm.
But in this episode, though, the thing that I want to iron home is we get the other universes, Alice and Magnus, and I feel so much for Alice. This Alice in this universe, I feel for her so much because she effectively lost her mom, but she
Mm-hmm.
didn't. like, like she went through all the grief, all the process of losing her mom, all the different stages of anger and depression, and she's very different from the other Alice. And I love the fact that even the Magnus is very different. Like he's like, no, you shouldn't be alone. Don't
Mm-hmm.
feelings, don't hold in your emotions. I'm here. Like we've got to move on. Whereas the other Magnus in the other universe just wants to escape into everything he can. I don't know. Did you want to talk towards like Alice in this episode and Magnus, his approach to dealing with his daughter, dealing with this crisis as well?
Yeah, I think this Magnus seems like more like kinder, and I think it's because in this reality he has a happy, loving marriage with Joe. So like I think that obviously changes how like the Magnus we've known in these last few episodes is a prickly, douchebaggy, ch- annoying, like kind of dude, and clearly his marriage is falling apart. Like they're going through different things, so like their approaches are different, like their hair is even styled differently. So I think that's interesting, and I like the way that they're being that aspect is being played up. Alice, this Alice, the Alice that we're getting to know, that whose mom technically didn't die, but this reality she did. So confusing. um she's still experiencing like flashes of her mother. Like she knows something is fundamentally off, and I think it's being played really well. And I mentioned this while we were watching the cast. The girls that are playing these Alices are actually twins, so I think it's super smart, especially like with an actress that, or any actor that's under the age of under a certain age. Like your brain is still developing, you're not gonna have to like the nuance to be able to play a certain character slightly differently than other characters. Kids don't really know that. So it's such a smart thing to just play into the natural differences of twins, identical twins. I assume that they are. So that's really smart and really cool because we're seeing two different little girls. Literally, they are two different little girls, which is brilliant. And I think that I really feel bad for her. The scene where they're like, they both see each other at the funeral or the wake, so well done. That
Yeah.
like little scream of terror, because we watched it again and I was like, oh my god,
Right.
like this little girl is prime for a horror movie season. Like she's got at least two or three. If they could get her into the right horror movie, she could eat. She's just like had the perfect like horror movie scream. It was
She does.
such a good scene. Like that was so well done. But yeah, I feel bad for her because she knows her mom's not dead,
You're right.
or or she knows somewhere her mom is alive somewhere
Right.
or something. Like regardless, so I think that's interesting. But yeah, I think everything's being done really well with how Alice is, kind of taking it all in, and we're now seeing like the other side of everything. It literally does feel like we're seeing the mirror side of like the thing we just saw. Like normally, if I swear, if this was in like less capable hands, this would feel redundant. Like,
Right.
it would honestly feel like we were watching the same episode, but we're not. We're watching the same episode, but the mirror, like the flip side of it. It's so weird. But
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Yeah. There's small little nuances to every single character, and the actors are approaching them that way. But then there are
Hmm.
tidbits of time that we get from the other pockets that work so well in this episode. Because even down to like Paul going to the psychiatrist and kind of talking about like what he saw, like it's the same exact thing that happened to Joe, but a different flip of it because he's
Hmm.
dealing with the ramifications of his failure. He looks at it like a failure. Like I lost the excal. I left like my commanding officer up there effectively, and I'm dealing with all this guilt. But the biggest thing that's crazy, and I have to give the credit to William, is that the full realization, like Joe approaches it very differently than Paul did. Like Joe's kind of like, oh well, I'm just gonna believe this, and this is where it is. But the thing that's messing her up on the other reality is like knowing like this isn't my daughter, this isn't my daughter.
Hmm.
But the way that Paul is looking at it, like nothing is the same. Like my
Right.
relationship with my wife is not the same. Like people in their belief in what I'm doing. Like everything that I've devoted my life to is not even existent. Like this doesn't add up. My mentor doesn't even exist right here. And so
Right.
it's like he's psychologically not capable of handling. I think his wife even said, like, you cannot handle how you're going down this route. And
Hmm.
even though, she's not his wife, like she's right. Like he's not capable of being able to understand what's really happening, but he knows that he's not crazy. Whereas
Hmm.
everybody else is kind of approach. It's just so weird because it's two different approaches to people that are dealing with the same thing, but you got
Hmm.
different personalities and how they're dealing with them. I think for him it might be a little worse because he doesn't have the cowl around him. He doesn't have the Excalibur,
Right.
and the only time he's seeing divots, it's almost like he's being haunted because of his actions, like at the
Hmm.
gravesite. And then actually his daughter kind of ousting him and being like, okay, you want to call me this word? Cool. I'm gonna tell Alice straight up, like, you think that you left her mom up there to die. And then all of a
Hmm.
sudden he looks to the left and sees a completely different little girl that's right next to him. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'm losing. But I love Williams' performance through this whole entire episode. Like his approach to Paul is so well done. Like I really hope they continue that thread. I hope he didn't end the way that they kind of like positioned it. But I don't know. What would you
Hmm.
think of William in this episode?
Ah, man. I was gonna say that I thinking back on it, the only times he did see, like, he was never switching on his own. He was only seeing ghosts. Like, whereas Joe was switching, he's not switching with his other one. And
Nope.
that's interesting. Why? Like, why is he's only experiencing like echoes? Like, he's experienced echoes when he's near Alice, or when he's in the same space as Joe.
Mm-hmm.
When which is interesting. But he's not leading it at all. Like, he's being influenced by it. So I wonder why that is, and I wonder if it's because Joe isn't in. If it's because Joe is in possession of the cow, or if this is somehow related back to Alice, because somehow, some way, the little girl is still involved. But I think that the way that they're playing it is so. The way Will Khaled's acting is so smart, because he really does. You can see the descent, and his descent from the outside. From, if you don't know what's going on, that's like he does look like he's going insane. He
Yeah.
looks completely like he's going insane, but which is smart, because he gets, you can see his eyes. He's like losing it. But his wife is interpreting it smartly by the end. She's like, okay, this is guilt, and we can figure this out. But then he's just like, nah, I gotta go, because this is not the world I remember. And I I do think that I feel bad, because his daughter is completely like, I don't know who this man is. Why is he talking to me like this?
Right.
Um, but I thought it was smart for her to, pull Allison and be like, let you guys deal with this. Um, yeah, I don't know. It was good.
Yeah. No. And I think that it added another wrinkle to it when he was trying to talk to his commanding officer and kind of talking to her like, look, I had this project. This is what this is. You talked to me when I was doing my little excerpt with the rest of the crew. Like you said, the XCal was discommunicated like 12 years ago. Then when she corners him and is talking to him one on one, she's like, the XCal never existed. Which is it, homie? Like she's absolutely lying, because she takes the place of the girl. What's the girl's name? The Russian chick. God, spacing on her name.
Elena.
Yeah. So that version doesn't exist because she's dead. So any of the secrets, I'm assuming she knows. Whatever Elena knows in the other reality, this version of this character knows. And she's absolutely keeping a secret because he's taking the same psychotics that Joe was taking and that he was taking. Um, I'm more curious to see how much the government knows and how much they are trying to assess this. Because one of the things that Henry said, I don't know if it's actually Bud or Henry, I'm not sure which one, is that the person that's using the XCal, they have to be a witness to what they're seeing. And that may be the effect that he's getting, that he's witnessed it in some way, shape, or form because he was close enough to it. That's
Mm-hmm.
the only thing that makes any sense to me. But it's just great television, dude. Like it's so
Mm-hmm.
well done from a storytelling standpoint, to the point that flashback to Alice, finally seeing different moments and pockets of time, different versions of herself, to seeing herself and seeing her mom and knowing that her mom's going out to the cabin. She's like, I want to go see my mom. I need to go to my mom's cabin. You go to my mom's cabin.
Mm-hmm.
And poor Magnus is dealing with grief. Like he's he's holding on by a thin red line. And they finally make it out there. And when she was like, we can just go and walk out there. We can go and drive on ice. He's like, I'm not driving on ice. I was like, yeah, that's that's definitely
Right.
dollar related. But they make it out there, and she goes to use skeleton teeth, gets in, and it goes back to that segment in time where we've seen from the first episode where she sees the other version. And they haven't even gotten to that point yet, but it's setting it up almost perfectly. But the thing that I was going to ask you about is when it comes to Bud. So Paul, when he faints and passes out, wakes back up. His wife is like, I don't know where he went. And his superior officer was like, yeah, we got to go and put him away into a sane asylum, so to speak. And he goes and tries to track down who he thinks is Henry. And
Mm-hmm.
Bud opens the door and is like, hey, what you doing here, man? I don't know you. And he's like, you left somebody up there to die. And he's like, no, I know who you are. You are Henry. And he's like, I don't go by that name anymore. And he's like, no, I learned everything from you. You saved
Mm-hmm.
lives. And he said everything but the XCal, but you could tell that Bud wanted to kind of connect with him, but he's like, it's impossible for me to explain this to you to make sense. Essentially, like
Yeah.
you are stuck here like me, basically, and you're gonna have to just deal with it and let it go. And Paul's like, nah, bro, I ain't backing down. To the point that Bud pulls the gun out on him, presumably shoots him or threatens him. But I found out it was a very interesting interaction. So what did you get from that? Because I got a couple different things, but I was curious your take on what happened to really what we finding out happened to Bud realistically.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like obviously Bud and Henry swapped, but why we don't know. And they're aware of it. At least obviously they've been aware of it for years. And he's been drinking himself because he knows that he's not in the it seems like he's not in the right reality. Like he was supposed to be in the reality where they survived. I don't know. Or he's just like he thinks they're supposed to be, but he doesn't want to hear like whatever he has to say. He's like, I'm not the dude you think I am. Like I'm not. But I'm curious as to the time limit of it. Like, is this before or after the cruise? You know what I mean? Like, we don't know the timeline of when Paul Lancaster is seeing Bud. We see like all of the newspaper clippings and stuff on his wall. Like, so he's obsessed with this accident that killed two people, right? So I thought that was just interesting because obviously they would do way more help if it would be way more help if they just talked out and helped each other out. But
Yeah.
that's just not gonna happen. But I am interested in like what the timeline is, like when did this take place? Was it before or after you got on the cruise? You know what I mean? Yeah. What did you think?
So this is the thing. If the Excal did exist 12 years ago, then that means Henry and Bud both were intricate to developing it. And if that's the case, that the version, so that's the thing I'm curious about, because either one, the one that's supposedly Henry is actually Bud. And the one
Yeah.
that Bud is actually Henry, which is why he's so mad and why he's drinking himself to
Yeah,
death.
because they're permanently swapped. Yeah.
Because he said it, he's like, I didn't mess up. I didn't mess up. I
That's what I
wouldn't.
was thinking.
And so that's why he's gone crazy. Is that this man that did mess up, did kill these lives, that didn't get it incorrect,
Stole
was
his
the
life.
one that actually stole everything and got everything that I've earned. And the thing about it is that Bud may be the key to maybe rebuilding it or finding it, because it's got to exist, right? It's got to exist in that reality.
No, it doesn't. I don't think it does. Um, I don't think it exists in that reality. I think that when because like we know that the cow didn't always have exist. Like this phenomenon that's happening, it didn't always have to include the cow. Like it predates the cow's existence. So I think that was just like the cow itself just records or like triggers or somehow it like can record the phenomenon happening because he said it doesn't want to be seen. So I think, but I don't know. I wonder.
Because that's the thing. I was wondering if the girl, I think that the girl lied and there is an ex-cow.
Yeah, I think there's definitely. I don't think there is a Cal. I think that they lied and are covering up because something worse happened. That like they know what's going on, but they have
Mm,
no way of because no one so far we've seen has shown that they are able to swap. Remember, like with Joe and Alice, they were able to like hear the other side because with the Cal close to it. Paul isn't able to. He's things are happening to him. He's not able
right.
to actually control any of this because it doesn't exist on his side. If it did, like just like Bud is so pissed off because he has no control over it. So I think in that reality it doesn't exist. So it's just happening to them. Versus
Right.
on the other side where the Cal exists, they have not a little bit more control over it.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Which is why we see them interacting and doing more things like where Henry's swapping in and out and Joe is like seeing literally able to like swap in her but like I think that's why they're able to and like that Alice is able to see things more. Like I think it's because the Cal's on that side of the universe. They're able to basically exist in they're able to be more on the offensive, whereas on the other reality they seem to be on the defensive. They're just like things are just happening to them. That's what it just seems like consistently with that Alice, Bud, and that Paul and the alive Lancaster. It's all just happening to them. They're not able to control it.
I think that makes sense because realistically, if the cow did exist in this universe, Bud would have tried to retrieve it and try to figure out how to make it manipulate to work to get him back. But he
Yeah.
hasn't. Like he hasn't tried. He's kind of just given up. So that's interesting. That's crazy. I mean, do you think that Paul died?
In the
Or
other reality? Oh no, at the end of the episode. I really hope not. Like seems like such a
waste.
Yeah, like we built this whole we had this whole episode. We thought we built the whole season thinking he died. And then just to bring like, oh, he's actually this version's alive. And then to kill him off, it just feels like a waste of time, like storyline, especially when we know like we can that we have more story to tell, especially when it's I don't want him to be taken away from his family again. Like he has a family. Like I think it would be unfair for him to die again. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you a more triggering question. Do you think that they'll ever get back to their respective realities by the end of the season?
I think that I think that they don't have to return. I think something needs to something needs to sever the connect. Something needs to mentally swap them back because it's not their bodies that are traveling; it's their mental state. Something needs to permanently swap them back to be in the realities that and then sever that tie. You know what I mean? Like I think they can. They just have to figure it out how. You know what I mean? Because but I don't know. They may not be able to. They may be stuck in their alternate, they may like I don't know.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, Joe's body doesn't exist in that reality. She's dead.
No, I mean their bodies still exist. They're just
No. I mean, so like the universe that we were in this episode, Joe's body is dead.
Yeah, no, she's dead. Yeah.
So it's kind of like even if she wanted to come back to that body, she would just be going back to a dead body.
That's true. But I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I don't know how it would work.
So it's almost like the thing that's keeping them alive is the cow, because otherwise they would have just been dead.
I mean, they are dead. Their one version is dead. Like one version is dead. I just don't know. Maybe they may not ever return. I don't know. Like if they can find a way for the cow to like actually move their bodies to a different universe, maybe. I mean, something is impacting them physically. Like she did like something hit the ship. Like that's how this whole thing happened. Like something hit it. So yeah, I don't know.
It's kind of like the only two people that could go and swap back and forth realistically without any ramifications or health issues would be Henry and Bud and the two Alices. Like they're the two that could maybe make it work. But I don't know. I really don't know. I love the fact that I don't know. Like these are all like just suggestions and thoughts, but the fact that they were able to do such a good storyline and keep us like thinking and processing is everything. And then they ended on this dope cliffhanger. It's like I need to see what's next. I got to see what's gonna happen next. But yeah, I think this might be my favorite episode, to be honest.
This is a really good one. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna rate this a 10. I don't really have any negatives in it. It wasn't any dry moments. It gave so many great answers and questions. What was your take? What was your rating on this?
I would say, I'll say an A. I've been giving this an A like the whole season because I thought it was a really smart way to tell the same story again. And we actually got some answers to some questions, figured some things out. I thought it was perfect. I thought it was a really good episode actually, and the acting is fantastic. So I'm hoping they didn't kill him off again, so we can see a little bit more and actually progress in the storytelling next episode.
Yeah, no, it's another great episode for me too. I'm gonna let you plug. Go plug, go plug, go plug.
You can follow me at Vanessa Shark on everything, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Um, have a website, vanessashark.com, that you can check out. Multiversecolor.com is where I write and do primarily most of my interviews. You can check that out as well. And yeah, back to you.
I was about to say you nailed it. You got it.
I
Oh
still
god.
nailed it. That was
You,
good.
you
I'm
teased
serving
it.
TV anchor.
You teased it so hard, but it's fine. It's all good. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell button. Go and check out all Vanessa's content in the description bar below. We'll be back for episode 7. 7? Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll be back. Peace, guys.
Yay.
Filing out the top of the I can see the skyline, 50 mile radius on my timeline. Ain't nothing on my mind.